Good afternoon. Taliban militants have reached the outskirts of the capital of Afghanistan, Kabul, after taking control of most of the country. The city's fall would see the hardline Islamist group regain power 2 decades after US-led forces toppled it in the wake of the September the 11th attacks. A spokesman for the Taliban said it wanted to see what it called a peaceful transition of power over the next few days. Here's our diplomatic correspondent, Paul Adams.
It's the final act, the fall of Kabul. With the Taliban closing in, those who can are leaving, taking what they can carry. And it's all happening without a fight.
The security forces are in Kabul providing security. The international forces are also there to support us. Yesterday, the president, in a meeting, decided to send a delegation to Doha to reach an agreement there. We will provide security until they reach an agreement. The enemy is spreading rumours. Until a peace agreement, Kabul will remain secured.
And the Taliban say they won't take Kabul by force. Negotiations are underway, their latest statement says, to ensure a safe, secure transition. Our forces are instructed to stand at the gates of Kabul and not try to enter the city.
We want to avoid bloodshed and to destruction of properties of the people, and to not give chance to plunderers, looters who are waiting for such moments to loot or plunder the properties of the people.
But Kabul is a place full of fear. Tens of thousands of civilians displaced by fighting elsewhere, living on the streets, telling stories of abuses at the hands of the Taliban.
The
Taliban came into our village in the night. After a few days, we managed to escape as they were murdering the men and boys. They accused them of being in the army or the police. They were taken out of their homes and murdered because they worked for the government.
Away from the capital, more success for the Taliban, taking over the eastern city of Jalalabad, giving them control of the vital road connecting Afghanistan with Pakistan. Far to the west, they're cementing control over another strategic city, Herat. In just 2 weeks, every major city has fallen, and most provinces, leaving Kabul surrounded and isolated. Back at the capital, the city's main prison is now in Taliban hands. Inmates are being let out. It's a pattern repeated across the country in recent days.
Personally, I hang my head in shame. The words betrayal and abandonment, I think you used earlier, Yalda, and that is what Afghans feel. The Afghan colleagues, Afghan friends, Afghans who have worked hard to build a modern Afghanistan, worked hard as reliable allies and partners for us over the years.
At the border with Pakistan, Afghans are fleeing. With or without fighting, the Taliban's takeover looks set to trigger a fresh wave of refugees.
And Paul Adams is with me now. So Paul, what's next?
I mean, it seems incredible that, a couple of weeks ago, no one, I think, would have been saying that Kabul would fall as quickly as it has. I think everyone is now going to just frankly draw breath. It's over. This is it. The Taliban have won. I think the Afghan government is going to disappear and be replaced by some kind of new administration. The Americans are in the process of evacuating their embassy, not just partially, but entirely. I suspect the British are going to do the same. Afghanistan has new rulers and, the people who were in charge 20 years ago. The question is, how different are they going to be second time around? What lessons have they learned? And you already heard in that piece the kind of dichotomy between what they're saying about a peaceful transition, about not taking revenge on people, and what the experience of some Afghans in areas that have already been conquered by the Taliban has been. All of that is going to play out, and the answer is the future is incredibly uncertain. OK, we'll leave it there. Paul Adams, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Well, live now to our political correspondent, Tony Bonsignore, who's at Westminster for us. And Tony, it looks like Parliament is set to be recalled.
Yes, Lukwesa, Wednesday is the day we understand. A one-day sitting. MPs will be expected to return here to Parliament to discuss, as many of them have been demanding to do, the deepening crisis in Afghanistan and the government's response to it. And I think the government can expect quite a difficult day on Wednesday. Already today we've had a number of senior Tory MPs questioning whether the government should do more. For example, Tom Tugendhat, who's chair of the Commons Foreign Affairs Committee, says this is the worst crisis, foreign policy crisis, since Suez in 1956, wants to know what the government's plan is. Tobias Ellwood, chair of the Commons Defence Committee, saying that this is the time for the government to act, he says, with political will and courage. And Labour as well. Labour's shadow Foreign Secretary Lisa Nandy today saying that the government must come up with a clear strategy of where it goes from here, and it must also act fast to get people out of Kabul as soon as possible. I'm sure that will be the priority in Whitehall right now.
Tony Bonsignore, thank you very much. Sunday services at churches across Devon have remembered the 5 people killed in a shooting in Plymouth. Special prayers have been said for Jake Davison's victims, who included his own mother and a 3-year-old girl who was in the street with her father. Well, live now to Plymouth and our correspondent there, Lukwesa Gopal. Lukwesa.
Lukwesa. Police here are continuing to investigate and are carrying out post-mortem examinations. Also continuing are questions over the killer's mental health, over gun laws, over social media, what role those 3 areas may have played in this tragedy. But for people here, the focus of today was about remembrance of the victims. Time to reflect and remember 5 lives lost. Keyham today is a community still trying to make sense of a senseless killing.
What happened on Thursday actually hit me hard. It really hit me hard, and I felt as though I needed some spiritual comfort.
At St Thomas's Church there were hymns, readings and a special prayer written by the Bishop of Exeter in remembrance of the victims of the shooting. The priest says grief is turning to anger among residents at how the killer was allowed to own a gun.
There is anger piling up, but it's important to remember that these people are the same people who were running into the situation as it was unfolding. These are the people who have gone through some pretty bad trauma itself. I would rather the anger was channeled towards the people in the social media and all these people who would be kind of edging on and who cause this kind of poor mental health among so many people.
Jake Davison posted videos online saying he was socially isolated. He posted comments on social media about mass shootings and incels, misogynistic online groups linked to violent acts around the world. The former Metropolitan Police Commissioner Lord Stevens said officers should trawl through the social media accounts of those applying for a firearms licence to ensure that guns don't, in his words, fall into the hands of dangerous people. But former policing lead on terror prevention Sir Peter Fahey has defended the UK's gun licensing system, saying most murders through shooting involve illegally owned weapons. The police watchdog is investigating the Devon and Cornwall force, which returned Davison's gun and licence last month after they were removed following an allegation of assault last December. Tomorrow morning at 11, a minute's silence will be observed for the victims as a traumatised community continues to grieve. Lukwesa Gopal, BBC News.
OK, let's take a look at some of today's other news now. And officials in Haiti say 304 people are now known to have died in yesterday's powerful earthquake. At least 1,800 people were injured. The epicentre of the quake, with a magnitude of 7.2, was 80 miles from the capital, Port-au-Prince. The Prime Minister has declared a month-long state of emergency. The leader of New South Wales has warned that this is the worst situation Australia's been in since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, with the number of new coronavirus cases across the state reaching a record high yesterday. Hundreds of soldiers are preparing to join a police operation in Sydney to enforce strict new COVID-19 lockdown rules. Well, that's it for now. You can, of course, get the very latest on the developments in Afghanistan on the BBC News channel and, of course, online at bbc.co.uk. The next news on BBC One is at 6:05. Bye for now.